12,000 years ago, mysterious egg-headed people inhabited China, according to what archaeologists have found. And we should remember, though, that we have other things that have been found from about 12,000 years ago. For example, the powerful weapons of gods and ancient nuclear blasts happening in Mahabharata 12,000 years ago, as was written there. Also, massive 12,000-year-old network of underground tunnels stretching from Scotland to Asia Minor in Turkey. 12,000-year-old underwater city with pyramid off the US coast. And onwards and upwards. Also, what Graham Hancock has been telling us about the comet impact on Earth around that time, and the Younger Dryas period, and the Clovis culture demise around that time as well. So all these near extinction level events could have been the demise of these egg-headed people as well of China. Archaeologists excavated 25 human skeletons with elongated skulls dating back perhaps as long as 12,000 years ago from Hutao-Muga archaeological site, which is in northeast China. These strange shape of skulls symbolize a part of the ritual in ancient China. The discovery provides additional proof that cranial alterations were prevalent in ancient East Asia and were a customary practice throughout the world during prehistoric times. According to a study published in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology in 2019, a team of researchers led by bioarchaeologist Guanchao Zhang and paleoanthropologist Ojian Wang discovered 25 skeletons at a location known as Huta-Muga. The remains were dated between approximately 12,000 and 5,000 years ago, and out of the 25 skeletons, 11 had skulls that had been intentionally elongated with flattened bones at both the front and back of the head. The researchers from China's Jilin University and Texas A&M University, who conducted the excavations, were surprised at the abundance of anomalies and suggested that many are egg-shaped. The study co-author Qian Wang, an associate professor in the Department of Biomedical Sciences at Texas A&M University of Dentistry, said this is the earliest discovery of signs of intentional head modification in Eurasia continent, perhaps in the world. If this practice began in East Asia, it's likely spread westward to the Middle East, Russia, and Europe through the steppes, as well as eastward across the Bering Land Bridge to the Americas. The Chinese civilization is one of the most ancient and continuous in the world. While their recorded history can be traced back to the 5th century BC, of course they had writing and annals. With the emergence of the Zhou dynasty, there is archaeological evidence that suggests their history dates back even further. The Great Wall of China started building it around the 8th or 7th century, 9th or 8th century BC. Now, the earliest documented records refer to semi-mythical people called the Yellow Emperor and his beastly advisors known as the Foolish Old Men. Currently, the Chinese egg-shaped skulls are considered to be the oldest in the world. Besides, it was noted that the tradition of stretching heads had been formed long before the Neolithic Revolution, first agricultural revolution that took place. It was believed that the tradition of skull modification started around 9,000 years ago. According to archaeology, the discovered skulls exhibited artificial elongated brain cases and flattened bones at both the front and back of the head. The researchers identified 3 different types of cranial deformations in 11 of the skulls. Out of these 11, 5 were adults, with 1 female and others male. The remaining skulls belonged to children, and the ages of the individuals varied from 3 to 40 years old. Scientists still do not know why in ancient times people deliberately pulled their skulls out and where it started. The children's heads were clamped in a special vise or in a device of 2 boards. In the process, not only the bones of the skulls were stretched, but also the inside structure deformed, At the same time, the bones of the skull became very thin. Archaeologists believe that humans with deformed skulls were trained to perform important social roles, for example, to become priests of a certain cult. They believed that elongated skulls would open some unusual abilities and allow them to communicate with higher powers. At least people probably thought that by pulling back their heads, they acquired strong social status in their society. For centuries, our ancestors utilized various wooden, rag, and rope techniques to scar their own and their children's heads, seeking an aesthetic enhancement. The desire for such body modification has persisted worldwide for thousands of years, with some still practicing, especially in Africa. And the reason behind this practice remains uncertain, puzzling scientists who can only surmise that some compelling motivation drove our forebears to endure such pain. Even though the Huttamunga man is the oldest known case of deliberate skull reshaping in history, it's a mystery whether other known instances of deliberate skull reshaping spread from this group, or whether they rose independently of one another, Wang said. Oddly shaped, intentionally modified skulls have been discovered in various regions across the globe, while assertions from the 1980s contend that two Neanderthal skulls, estimated to be around 45,000 years old, had been reshaped during infancy. Numerous scholars have since refuted those claims. The most ancient skulls that exhibit widely acknowledged indications of cranial modification date back to approximately 13,000 to 10,000 years ago in western areas of Asia, southeastern Australia, and most recently East Asia. And on the other hand, this practice began over 8,000 years ago in the Americas. And despite the popular belief that the elongated skull, thought to be around 12,000 years old, was intentionally altered, some experts disagree. Although the skull does display some elongation, it is not significant enough to suggest intentional deformation. In fact, evidence only supports forced skull modification in those dating back 6,000 years. The peculiar case of the Paracas skull of Peru is another discovery of elongated skulls. However, it is different from the rest of the skull elongation cases. The size of the cranium of Paracas skulls is significantly larger, by 25 to 60% heavier than human skulls, which indicates that they were not artificially altered through head flattening. Moreover, these skulls possess a single parietal plate instead of two, like the Homo sapiens have, and due to the absence of any cranial formation, the elongation of these skulls remain unexplained and has been so for many years. The significance of the discovery in China remains noteworthy, irrespective of the ongoing controversy. It highlights the existence of deliberate skull alterations during the Neolithic period in the region. Additionally, the findings offer insights into the community's culture and convictions during the latter phase of the Stone Age. And let's remember that I don't even know where China foot binding for women started. This is by Vicky Verma on House and Wise. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. My Patreon account, the daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.